All right, so I guess without further ado, we'll start the spaces then. So obviously, no one really needs a primer about what's happened today. It was a big cut in the Nifty, down almost 5%. We've broken several crucial levels. The most important one, obviously, being the 200-day moving average, which we've respected for almost over 2 years. Many supports have also been broken, and the real pain, more than the Nifty, I would rather say, is in the broader markets. The kind of sell-off we saw, hardly 5 or 6 stocks in the NSE 500, which closed in the green, and rest almost 490 plus stocks ending lower. Um, Sushil, what is your tape reading suggesting you, or what are you making of this move? Do you see further pain for the markets from here? If yes, then how much, and which are the levels where you believe that the market should take support next? And how do you navigate, this whole uncertainty and heightened volatility?
Great set of questions, and we'll try and answer them in as many dimensions as possible, and then zero down on what is more important for what kind of person. So, say levels is one of the things, and definitely one of the more important things. So, in terms of levels, all levels have been smashed. That is one line that one can say and get away with. Now, if all levels have been smashed, what does it mean? So the next support area from which market really took a support resistance, 15,500. That's not too far. For today's range, 15,500 is just less than the distance from where we closed today, and 15,500 is less than the range displayed today. And if you combine between what was yesterday's high, almost 17,200, so from yesterday's high end, which came in the later part of the day, so in one and a half days, we've lost 1,100 points. So in points terms, the fall today has been like mind crushing, and these kind of mind crushing falls we have seen many times in the past. I'll come to that a little later. What do these very large falls or rises mean for short-term trading and for long-term trading? But say in terms of 1,100 points looking extreme, and in terms of that 15,500 looking extreme ki aur yahan se 600 point mar jayenge. But look at it this way, even if it has to, I'm yet not concluded where it will go. We'll lay down a large collage of many factors to look at, and then we'll eliminate out what seems to be less important and what seems to be more important in arriving at some sort of judgment. That judgment can include do not do anything yet, but start doing things when this happens. Or we may have a judgment that we can still do few of these things for different types of people. But purely in terms of the range, see, you can have distance measured in time. So in terms of the next support is about less than half of today's range. Today's range I count from yesterday's high. So is that any intelligent thing to even say, that we are less than half of today's range? Well, the more important part is, see, there are three things that will play out at any point in time in measuring your success or failure from your last reset. Anybody can have three situations in the market. He had no position, he is long, he was long, or he was short. And a person can move to only three states. Let's do trading state analysis. At any given point in time, irrespective of kal savere kya hoga, tomorrow one can go long, go short, or do nothing. So from an existing state, which could be a person was long, short, or was on a neutral state, and he can take three states tomorrow. So a total of 9 situations are there to be really analyzed. Just saying market kahan chala jayega is at most half the story. So if somebody has been short, he is having a windfall and a killing. Unless he gets an evidence for a firm reversal, he should allow his luck or skill to prevail. Uska to kaam bada aasan hai, hat gaya. Somebody who was long and is badly stuck up, there is no forecast that is of any importance to a person who's on the bleeding side of things. There, trying to judge कि ये कहाँ से घूम जाएगा, उस चक्कर में आप अंदर पूरा घुसते चले जाओगे, बर्बाद हो जाओगे. Anybody who has survived as a trader, forget about even doing well. The definition of a trader is somebody who chooses not to suffer. लग गई, काटो, निकलो. नहीं निकल पा रहे हो तब आप ट्रेडर नहीं हो. So assuming both that जिसका स्टकअप है पोजीशन, वो चाहे ट्रेडर है चाहे एमेच्योर है, उसके लिए फैसला चार्ट के बेसिस पे करना कंप्लीटली रॉन्ग होगा. अब कितनी मार्जिन संभालने की कैपेसिटी बची है और कितनी उसको यूज करनी चाहिए, ये फैसला वो अपनी ओवरऑल वेल्थ लेवल पे, वेल्थ कंप्राइजिंग ऑफ बोथ द फाइनेंशियल कैश फ्लो एट द मोमेंट एंड द मेंटल स्टेट. लोग टूट जाते हैं, मैं भी अक्सर टूटता हूँ, एंड टूटता हूँ तो मैं अपने आप को बर्बाद नहीं होने देता हूँ. काट के सब जीरो का, टर्मिनल बंद कर और आने का ही नहीं है टर्मिनल पे. गो एंड स्लीप, गो एंड वॉच ए मूवी. और नहीं काटा है किसी ने और कोई अगर स्टकअप है तो वो किसी भी तरह की फोरकास्टिंग में, किसी भी तरह के कॉन्वर्सेशन में पड़ेगा तो बहुत बड़ा गुनाह होगा, क्योंकि इट इज अ बैड वे ऑफ ट्राइंग टू इवन सर्वाइव इन मार्केट्स. एक बार सर्वाइव कर भी जाएगा और आज डैमेज स्टेट से लगाया हुआ तुक्का काम भी आ जाएगा, तो ये हरकत फिर बार बार करोगे तो फंसने वाला काम है. सो नाउ लेट्स कम टू द इजीएस्ट एंड मोर रेलिवेंट वे टू लुक एट थिंग्स, and then we will again back extrapolate. Assume for a moment we are talking about somebody who has zero positions at this point. The right way to trade is actually for your next decision. Your existing positions should not affect your next decision, and if they are affecting your next decision, then your existing positions, whether in loss or in profit, are far larger than what you can continue to maintain an unbiased decision making attitude. So if your current positions will affect your decision, then you have to in any case reduce those positions, whether winning or losing. So anytime any market discussion happens, and why am I getting into so much detail is on an extreme situation we need to look at extreme detail to be very very specific about what we are talking, what we are understanding from each other. So any incremental position without any memory of the position a person has right now, that is what we are going to mimic by saying कि अब भी नया सौदा क्या करे, एग्जिस्टिंग लॉन्ग का क्या करें. भाई जहां तक दर्द बर्दाश्त करना आपके लिए उचित है, people can end up tolerating unfair pain also. They can keep on bleeding with such a strength in their mind, they can keep on bleeding to a point that they will get nauseated and faint and die. तो वो bleeding नहीं tolerate करना चाहिए. One should not be mindless in bleeding. So those things we have handled. So an incremental new position without any memory of any position you are currently having कि नया और क्या किया जाए. तो इस लेवल की जो वॉलेटिलिटी है इसमें, एक्सट्रीम अपस्विंग अगर अभी क्रूड में आ रहा है तो क्रूड में लेन बनाने के लिए या शॉर्ट करने के लिए दोनों साइड में. सिमिलरली स्टॉक्स के अंदर अगर इस तरह का एक्सट्रीम फॉल आ रहा है, एज इफ वन विंग ऑफ अ प्लेन इज ब्रोकन. सो in any asset market, whether dollar, gold and crude spiked up like anything and equities knocked out like anything, in any of the markets, any size, किसी भी साइड की नई पोजीशन बनाने के लिए, any new incremental position, we forget even the forecast for a second, for a minute or two more. For any new incremental position to be taken, one will have to cognize the fragility with which movements are happening. See, volatility is calculated on closing prices over an n number of days. So a sudden breakout of market violence will not get captured adequately in any volatility calculations that are based on n number of days, without even going into the philosophical issue of whether standard deviation is appropriate or not. So for the, instead of calling volatility, let's call a simpler term for the amount of fluctuation that is possible. Okay, today we had a one-way, one-sided move going down. None of the usual technical indicators that you utilize for mean reversion, which is what mostly trading is done with. Whether you recognize it as mean reversion or not, oversold है, यहाँ से intraday में rebound मारेगा, let's try and fade this trade. So it was like a runaway train at 140 miles an hour, with the railway tracks thrown behind, and right inside the middle of the grasses, the train is keeping on chomping and chopping everything in its way. So, to try and go contrarian on any of the contracts, gold, crude और equities में लेने की सोचो और gold, crude में बेचने की सोचो. So obvious है ना, a train that has gone haywire, it's out to maul and maraud everyone. So unless and until there is some evidence that, a reversal has begun, whether, a large rebound happens and after that rebound some pullback comes and a higher bottom gets formed, until that kind of a calming down has happened, there is no intelligent, good way to keep taking the same size of positions as we were able to afford until, say, 2 days ago. Forget about the volatility calculation. For the fluctuations, you'll have to make a thumb rule adjustment. Clever quant traders are able to, on their thumbs, calculate quickly what is the current volatility. If, say, you are trading with the speed of markets, a 5-minute bar is these days as good as a 5-hour bar. So, say if we have 375 minutes in a day, is it 375? 9:15 से 3:15, 6 hours is 360 and 375 minutes. So you have 75 bars of 5 minutes in a day, right? So say for ease you take it as 64 bars. The square root of 64 will be 8. So 8 bars of 5 minutes will produce only 8 times the volatility as the single bar. और in the whole day, no, the whole day का अगर range आप 400 point पकड़ रहे होगी, it can close up 400 points down. So 400 divided by 8. Each single bar can fluctuate. By 400 divided by 8, 50 points. 50 points fluctuation in a 5-minute time frame is quickly possible. So if somebody is risk tolerant on, for example, if somebody's risk tolerance on any new additional trade is 1 lakh rupees, the right way to trade, according to us, what we advise our clients is, how do you position size? For each next trade, you keep a fixed rupee amount as the maximum tolerance you'll have. So say, I use as an example, 1 lakh rupees on each trade as an example in my weekend webinars. अगर 1 लाख रुपए आपका अगले एडवेंचर के लिए टॉलरेबल है, so you will divide that 1 lakh rupees by 50 to arrive at not more than 2,000 shares of Nifty you can tolerate. Whereas 3 days ago, that number was maybe 20,000 Nifty, for example. These are all rough calculations I'm making. They may not connect properly. So the fact is, very little position compared to our normal size is sensible to trade in either direction on an incremental new position. So if it is a negligibly small position compared to the size anybody was trading, trying and taking any additional trades, irrespective of whether your market direction call goes right or not, taking a position right away inside this pandemonium, it can change tomorrow in 2 hours. Market may start appearing stable, news flow has changed, some restraint is getting visible, or it can become worse. But even if in the worsened news, the price behavior has started showing that, a contra trend energy is visible. So then, some sensible position sizing can happen. So far, with so many words, even if I've sounded dismissive, that doing too much at this point is not feasible on an incremental position. Somebody who's suffering deep pain has to choose for himself how much pain he should take. And the rare few who have been right in getting a bearish call, they are riding, they should ride with a stop loss. Having said this for the moment, now if I expand the picture to a larger moment, fine, in hindsight, vision is always 2020 is an old adage. Though that was also vitiated by the year 2020. 2020 was not at all a perfect year. It was imperfect from every way. But the history that, when the first bullet gets fired, the worst gets priced in. I hope it has happened today. And I'm candidly using the word hope. We will have to see the evidence What if again tomorrow it opens gap down? So from the way I maneuvered and managed some of our positions today, we expanded on the short side and we kept on placing stop losses for the longs we had. कटते गया निकलते गए. तो so the net exposure is biased still on the downside. Though had I not been trading a complex book, and in hindsight I can lament that I should have been an outright short. नहीं हो पाया. Fine. So from this point, what one will need to see, if the old adage of the last 200 years is to come out, that when the first bullet gets fired, markets do bottom. Mr. Ramesh Raizada is there in the audience. I have already sent him an invite. Ramesh ji, if you would have seen a mic pop up that you are invited to speak, please accept it. Or if you missed it, you can always send us a request to speak. I'd like you to come up. Ramesh ji has been one of the oldest hats in the market. कहाँ गए वो?
Yeah, even I can't find him.
अच्छा, he's there. Or maybe I'll ping him separately on the WhatsApp.
Correct.
But we'll get in more speakers. Just to quickly introduce him, I'm hoping he'll speak. He speaks exceptionally well. He was one of the youngest fund managers at that erstwhile UTI, which was the only large institution in the market, and was always known as one of the sharpest and the smartest guys. So at a very, very young age, in the 90s, he was running substantial money for UTI, and he's one of the oldest hats in the market, has seen the entire transformation of this market. Now he lives in Delhi, and his son is already set up a very flourishing business. So at some point, I'm going to get Ramesh ji into this conversation. Maybe he's not accustomed to the spaces. So Ramesh ji, Raizada ji, if you will click on the mic button on the lower left corner, lower bottom corner, and request to be made a speaker, we will be able to approve and add you. We'll like to hear you and discuss things with you. In fact, some time ago only he was chatting with me on WhatsApp. Okay, so going back to that point. So the whole challenge of, preempting a hurtling truck is what is there in front of us this evening. So if I must then take a stab, अगर मैं सोचूं, लास्ट 2 दिन में 1100 पॉइंट गिरा हुआ बाजार है, अगर मैं यहाँ पे शॉर्ट करने को जाऊं, मैं कहाँ पे स्टॉप लॉस रखूंगा? 300 पॉइंट एक झटके में रिबाउंड हो जाएगा. 50 पॉइंट का मेरा अगर एक 5 मिनट का बार है, तो 50 पॉइंट इज more than 50 points is the current prevailing noise. 50 points is a rough example I gave you. If in 1 day's time we slid by 800 points, and if we say have 64 price bars in a day, so 1/8 of 800, 100 points is a valid expected 1 sigma value of 5 minutes, which means a 95% chance that you will not get a stop loss. Even if you are as fast a trader to trade every 5 minutes, would be about 200 points. So 200 पॉइंट के टॉलरेंस में आपको इंट्राडे ट्रेडिंग करके 500 पॉइंट बनाने की अगर कोशिश करनी है, तो पोजीशन साइज विल बिकम मच स्मॉलर. But say if we go back to looking at how the history of every war has been, if now today Biden says we are going to impose far more stronger sanctions, that's a ray of hope for me. Because the real fear, if this world had ki world war ho jayega and the NATO will start flying all over the place, NATO may try to up the ante by doing proxy supplies of men and machine on the ground within Ukraine, but to launch aggression inside the Russian territory is what is going to really create a scale up of the war to a global scale. It's right now one powerful person going and rampaging everyone. So I think wait and watch into tomorrow with a bias. Even if और 500 पॉइंट घट जाएगा, यही 500 पॉइंट कमा लेने से तो मेरे मार्केट के अंदर जो मेरी लाइफ का ऑब्जेक्टिव तो पूरा नहीं होगा. Even if I succeed in making the further 500 points down by going short afresh here, the probability that this trade will succeed with this level of intraday noise, this level, see, so far a clear-cut sharp trend came through the whole day, does not mean that it's a trend in terms of your risk control. आपके stop losses को तो आपको बहुत wide रखने पड़ेंगे. So 500 पॉइंट कमाने के लिए अगर मैं 300 पॉइंट का stop loss रखता हूँ, तो that's not a 3:1 stop loss I'm used to. Hence I like to postpone the decisions that I want to take, and these are the decisions I would ideally look for, that after such a steep fall that has happened in the last 2 days, which has come on top of a continued decline for a good time across the world, from Wall Street to Dalal Street, post-budget we have been in a decline, and then this decline really exacerbated in the last 2 days, more like that climactic sell-off, or the spike in gold. Gold had almost given a reversal signal twice, and then it today spiked out. So there may be many early shots, preemptive shots, unko punish kara diya. Or crude has had a expanding megaphone pattern, which is waiting to be sold into, and this last minute crisis squeeze is clearing out every shot in the crude pit. कोई भी sensible shot को survive करने का मौका नहीं मिला. That pit is totally hollow. Every shot in gold has been cleaned out, and the pattern on gold on Elliott waves is not of an impulse structure that is going to be a sustainable rise over many months. So ये जो climactic moves हो रही है, and even if my call goes wrong that these are climactic moves and this persists for a few days more, ये 500-700 पॉइंट तो हर रोज गिरेगा नहीं, क्योंकि if nuclear war kind of a situation or a real war, say if short selling has been banned in Russia, it might very well happen that stock exchange may need to shut down कि सब कुछ pandemonium हो गया है. So these are disorderly markets where the order of markets is sacrificed. Markets are coming close to a break. It's not just that the prices are breaking, the markets are about to break. The market ecosystem will break. So chances are that at some point, whether tomorrow itself or in the next few days, if a reversal works out, and then from that lowest point, whether at a 300 points higher or a 500 points higher, I'm able to grab some long, and then as it scales up. So looking at the history of last 200 years, that the onset of war happens on a market day when the worst has already been priced in. The war has already begun. The war can scale up and it can conflagrate and it can go nuclear and it can happen that carpet bombing has begun. So, that's unimaginable cheese and nobody is ready for it. And it's very likely will not happen. I think, sense will prevail. In a nuclear...
Absolutely. And that was the key takeaway from our spaces yesterday. We had Ajay Bagga sir, who looks at geopolitics very closely, as well as Professor Chalani. And they had, kind of the same stance that, possibly US interfering in this war as in taking an active role is highly unlikely. At most, they'll just keep supporting Ukraine with arms and at best, impose further stricter restrictions. But Putin clearly does not, really care about these restrictions. He's already shored up his resources in terms of crude, in terms of gold. So he's safeguarded himself to that extent. So he's just, going all out, and there's just no stopping him.
So in that sense, from these extremas, even if a little more extreme comes, and another thing, howsoever absurd this sounds, that why in the past on any possible war in any corner of the world between any two nations, the start of the day of the war was the low. One of the reasons for that is that all intelligent, sensible, responsible people will have to do the obvious, that is getting out of positions that are hurting. So the market gets lopsided that, leveraged longs have all responsible longs have gone. Only remaining longs are those where the broker will have to square off, or these people will bleed to death, they will not square up. So whatever could have been forced out of the market gets forced out already on the day such a calamity begins. And then maybe there are some over smart thinkers like me whose वो भी हो सकता है कि उनकी position कटेगी नहीं कभी. So whatever could have been sacrificed is already sacrificed. So being wrong, being right so far is different. Whether you are long or you are short, that is also totally separate. The issue is this level of uncertainty and the amount of fluctuation in the market will allow for very small incremental positions to be taken. So I'll have to wait to see this resolve. And my thinking is history, or whatever you study as data, the worst gets priced in on the day the war begins. So who knows? Say, now again, going back and connecting to your original question about, levels. So on Nifty, from this
from this fall from the all-time high of 18,650 odd, we went down to 16,400. So the amount of that this one leg had, after that the rally to 18,300. So subtract from 18,300 the length of the fall from the all-time high to the first leg. So today we have had an equal leg. So a WXY is possible here. Intraday also, there are enough divergences, this, that, whatever, but it's like, as I told you, a train that has gone amok and left the railway track and grazing into the grasses. So to try and get adventurous towards the close inside such a fat, large falling bar was not feasible. But say whether from any gap that opens tomorrow or, we in fact end up opening higher and something happens overnight today, we don't know. There's still until 2 a.m. in the morning that this world will be active. So let's see tomorrow. And if that breaks, then the next number is 15,500. And even in that case, for the next 600 points, is it judicious to go additionally short? One can try it. The trend is down. One can try it. And if this equality level between the first leg of the fall and second leg of the fall, if equality breaks, the next number could be a 40%. 1.382 times or 1.27 times 15,500 का जो next support base है, we get down to that area. One can try it, but if intraday 200 point का fluctuation में position कट जाएगा तो कट जाएगा. But I would rather personally for myself, looking at the longer run history of how every market in the world has behaved around war, I like to pause and wait for a reversal to start appearing, because नीचे कमाने का और 500 पॉइंट, और अगर यहाँ से घूम गया तो वापस 20,000 भी आएगा, मार्केट 19,000 भी आएगा. 20,000 की बात एक्सट्रीम है. लेट्स फर्स्ट हैव अ रीबाउंड बैक टू 17,800 straight from here, and then after that what kind of correction comes, then we decide whether 20,000 is coming or not. But the upside can be substantially more than the downside at this point, looking at the history of every war, and the evidence and the comfort to start playing for the upside has not yet come. So maybe tomorrow it comes, maybe day after it comes. So I'll not increase or go for incrementally new shots at this point. So if I'm not doing that, then what am I waiting for? If a reversal comes, I'll get onto the long side. Otherwise, happy to miss the positions on a further downside. And if the question will come, am I going to sell off my portfolio? Am I going to become a pair on the next 6 months horizon? Am I going to be a pair even on the next 1 month horizon? The answer is a thumping no.
So Sushil, just to come back to your point that you see just a limited downside of 600 points, and obviously whether or not we stop at 15,500 is something that we'll have to find out. But you mentioned earlier that you'll start looking for evidence or points which would suggest that there is a reversal happening, and obviously there is no way to catch tops and bottoms. That is obviously something that liars and fools are able to do. But for you to believe that the worst is over, obviously anecdotally in the past, the day the wars have started is when the markets are bottomed out. But in terms of data, what are you specifically watching out for? Is it crude? Is it a reversal in gold, or any other levels in Nifty wherein you will start getting bullish on the markets again?
See, all of these, if a reversal will come in place, whether with a gap of few hours or with a gap of max 1 day, if everything has gone haywire, from possible tops of crude and gold, if they have broken out into a frenzy, and from possible bottoms in equities everywhere, if the bottom has fallen apart in them and the top has got blown up in risk of asset like gold on one hand and crude out of scarcity. So if the reversal will work out, if more trustworthy reversals will work out, they will eventually work out on all of them. So more than that, for whatever asset I am trading, for seeking longs on indices, see, I'll tell you one thing. The way Bank Nifty is closed today, 35,000 area. If you open below that, the trend line support at 35,000, if that broken, the chart will scream for a move down to 30,000. And if Bank Nifty goes down to 30,000, Nifty can get down to 14,500 also, 14,200 also. So the more important thing for this conversation is कि अगर कोई भी चीज दर्द में फंसी हुई है, and if tomorrow Bank Nifty starts trading below 35,000, एक बार में left right center जो भी मेरा leverage longs है, जिसका कुछ भी justification है कि मेरा इसके सामने ये बेचान है, टाटा स्टील बेचान है, SBI बेचान है, उसके सामने मैंने ये लिया हुआ है, बेचान खड़ी रहेगी, पहले सारा long उड़ाते जाओ लाइन से. That's what I'm going to do for myself. Even though the idea is for my incremental new positions, I'd like to keep my mind and my margins free to be able to grab longs and get onto the long side of the market if that reversal comes. But until that comes, if another horrifying day of another 700 points down comes, so it will be completely foolhardy to not have risk management in place. If Bank Nifty breaks below 35,000, एक बार तो ठोकने का है, 500 पॉइंट का स्टॉप लॉस लगा के बेचेंगे, क्योंकि सीधा नीचे 30,000 तक का खड्डा है. सो क्या पॉसिबल है, क्या पॉसिबल नहीं है, इन दिस काइंड ऑफ हाराकिरी वो सोचना मेरे को लगता है गुनाह होगा. आई वॉन्ट टू बी इंटेलिजेंट आउटसाइड द मार्केट आवर्स. I want to suspend my intellect completely inside market hours. So today morning when the gap down was opening, I wrote to my clients, don't participate in the panic, and if I find any reversal signals, I'll come back to you. Participate in the don't participate in the panic की मतलब यहाँ खुलते ही ठोको मत, ठीक है. 200 पॉइंट का रीबाउंड आया, उससे ज्यादा कुछ नहीं, और ठीक है मैंने उनको शॉर्ट करने के लिए एनकरेज नहीं किया, बट जो स्टॉप लॉस मेंटेन करना पड़ेगा. अगर कोई भी लॉन्ग फंसी हुई तो ब्लीड तो नहीं करना है हमको. सो 35,000 अगर बैंक निफ्टी तोड़ देता है तो कुछ भी हो सकता है. फिर उसमें वो नहीं जाएगा 30,000, वो 32,000 से घूम जाएगा, 33 से घूम जाएगा, 34 से घूम जाएगा, या खाली 500 पॉइंट नीचे गिर के वापस 35,000 पे जाएगा. तो 35,000 बिक गया तो मैं 35,000 को स्टॉप लॉस बना के जरूर बेचूंगा. फोरकास्टिंग इज वन थिंग, सर्वाइविंग इज अ टोटली डिफरेंट थिंग. 3 मंथ का व्यू है कि यहाँ से खूंखार तेजी भी बनेगी, पर वो आने के पहले अगर यहाँ से और 10% गिर गया बाजार तो क्या करेंगे. सो वेरी वेरी टाइट स्टॉप्स. एंड अगर बाकी चीजों में मैं स्टॉप, मेरे पास आइडिया सेल्यूलर, उसको बेचते बेचते मेरा पापड़ निकल जाएगा, वो 10% भी घट जाएगा. अगर कल इस तरह से और स्लाइड आया तो मेरा आइडिया क्वांटिटी बेचते बेचते, मेरी क्वांटिटी की वजह से नहीं, एक बार में बटन दबा के नहीं बेच पाता आदमी. मैं टुकड़े टुकड़े में बेचूंगा, वो 1 रुपया घटेगा, 10% घट गया तो मेरे को तो सामने पहले बैंक निफ्टी मारना पड़ेगा. सो दैट सर्वाइवल इन द मोमेंट इज अ डिफरेंट गेम. 35,000 के नीचे बैंक निफ्टी गया तो कुछ भी हो सकता है. अगर बैंक निफ्टी इस तरह से स्लाइड आएगा कि बिल्कुल ही ठोकम ठाक हो जाएगी, एसबीआई रिजल्ट्स वे ऑसम, और रिजल्ट्स से पहले शॉर्ट किया था, चार्ट को देख के रिजल्ट्स के कारण गला रूंध गया कि यार कैसा रिजल्ट आया. नेक्स्ट डे और सारे के सारे लार्ज कैप स्टॉक्स आप देखो 17,800 तक में. ग्रेट रिजल्ट्स एंड स्टॉक इज डाउन, ग्रेट रिजल्ट एंड स्टॉक इज डाउन. तो रशिया तो अभी आया है. ये अब वो कॉन्स्पिरेसी थ्योरी की थिंकिंग आएगी, या सम पीपल विल लाफ एट मी बिकॉज ऑफ अ कॉन्स्पिरेसी थ्योरी थिंकिंग. आई एम नॉट मेकिंग एनी, बट इन द मार्केट वाज कॉन्स्टेंटली रिवीलिंग द गुड न्यूज इज नॉट वर्किंग ऑन इट. सेम वे इफ इनसाइड दिस बैड न्यूज, इफ आई फाइंड कल 35,000 नहीं तोड़ता है बैंक निफ्टी, यहाँ से घूम जाता है, तो हो सकता है 200 पॉइंट का स्टॉप लॉस लगा के थोड़ा सा लूंगा भी. सो विल हैव टू सी दैट टुमारो, बट लेट्स सी. इंक्रीमेंटल न्यू पोजीशंस एक बैंक निफ्टी में चूंकि एक बड़ा पैटर्न है, that trend. I wish I can post that chart. Maybe after this conversation I'll post it, or while we talk I'll just put it on a tweet. Yeah, let me put it on a tweet. Simple. So while we are talking, I'm going to compose this tweet and put it in this room. There's a trend line connecting the low of April 2021, and then a low had happened in December 2021 at 33,976. April low was 30,500. So if we've come to that trend line. If we reverse from this point today, it will be a trend line. Tomorrow, if we reverse, then it will become a trend line, that third point. Otherwise, there are 2 prior points. It's only a line, not a trend line. But if that breaks, then I cannot rule out 30,500 or say 30,000, and I cannot play for it blindly. So I'll keep a stop loss at this breakdown point. आज का जो बंद भाव है उसको मैं stop loss बना के बेचूंगा अगर वो टूटेगा तो. And that stop loss can hit. I may end up making 5,000 points. Totally different. But except for Bank Nifty, बाकी की कोई भी चीज को यहाँ पे शॉर्ट करने के लिए मेरे पास कोई प्रॉपर पैटर्न और लेवल नहीं है. That's the frank confession. Forecasting is not a tough thing. One can do it. One can go wrong. One will get trolled on Twitter. But उससे ज्यादा कुछ नहीं होगा ट्रोलिंग होने से ज्यादा. But सौदा अगर करना है तो I need to find an exit point first. Something that I can mechanically fix. कि come whatever में this is my exit. So that Bank Nifty affords me from this pattern on the line and trend line. But other than that, for say Nifty or for so many other stocks, I don't have the luxury of such a pattern. And hence I was saying कि यहाँ कोई भी नया शॉर्ट करने के पहले मुझे सोचना है. शॉर्ट करने में मुझे दिक्कत आएगी कि मेरे पास एग्जिट पॉइंट नहीं है. So except for Bank Nifty, anything else, I don't have a fulcrum by which I can decide कि my short is going wrong and I need to get out. So it will be a random stop loss in shorting anything else. So I'll keep it simple for overnight कि शांति से सो, सवेरे बैंक निफ्टी खुला नीचे, अब खुलते 1000 पॉइंट खुल गया तो देखेंगे कि रिबाउंड मिलता है तो बेचना है कि नहीं. But broadly speaking, looking at 200 years of history of war, even I think बैंक निफ्टी कल बेच भी दिया और 500 पॉइंट नीचे जाने के बाद भी घूम जाएगा और वापस आके वो 35,000 के ऊपर चलने लगेगा तो मुझे लेना ही पड़ेगा उसको. पहले स्टॉप लॉस काटूंगा. सो बेटर है, I'll remain with the bias of last 200 years. The day actual war begins, that's the final low. People have ended up making fortunes, even accidentally कि वो लोग लॉन्ग थे और वॉर हो गया और मार्केट अनशंट बढ़ गया उसके बाद. If this time it becomes a complete exception, ठीक है, I'll miss out on the downside, and if that नीचे का मूव आने लग जाएगा तो हम बैंक निफ्टी में मार के कुछ कमाने की कोशिश करेंगे. उससे ज्यादा मुझे नहीं लगता है कि मैं इसकी कोई भी समीक्षा, कोई भी टिप्पणी, कोई भी विश्लेषण कर सकूं या इसको ad infinitum, ad nauseum we should keep on analyzing it. But yes, if I want to try and take a stab, say the dollar index which has been keeping on going up along with gold and crude on the RSI momentum divergence is severe. तो यहाँ से नया डॉलर इंडेक्स को लेके मैं it's making a double top at this moment at 97.425. We had gone on that level about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. The high of 4 weeks ago was the same. If we make a further breakout also, how much more can we go to? The next number is 98.80. So another 1.5% on dollar index, which could mean 5% more on gold and 3% more on gold, 5% more on crude, and it could mean another 5% on stocks also. But post that, a 20% rise in the stock market, that is what I don't want to miss, because every war has produced that. So let's put it this way, to be very clear this night, to be decisive this night is not something market is willing to afford. कल नीचे खुलेगा अगर बैंक निफ्टी तो बेचेंगे 35 का स्टॉप लॉस लगा के, और नहीं खुलेगा चढ़ने लगेगा तो इंट्राडे में जैसे जैसे हायर बॉटम्स इंडिविजुअल स्टॉक्स में मिलने लगेंगे. सो द लिस्ट ऑफ स्टॉक्स टू बाय रिमेन्स द सेम. ऑल द मिड कैप आईटी स्टॉक्स दैट वी आर एंटिसिपेटिंग अ 50% राइज अपॉन, वो आज भी उस तरह से नहीं टूटे हैं जो बाकी के बाजार का बैंड बच गया. दे हैव नॉट रियली केव्ड इन एट ऑल. सो दोस स्टॉक्स दैट हैव डिस्प्लेड रिलेटिव स्ट्रेंथ, if they declined only 1-2% today despite such a market-wide fall, and if they are in the green tomorrow, and the index starts easing upwards, I'll start getting into those stocks. So my plan of action is the stocks that have shown a much higher resilience and relative strength. I'll get into shopping them on the upper side if higher intraday bottom starts happening on the index. But if index starts crackling down further, निफ्टी पे वो क्लैरिटी नहीं है, बैंक निफ्टी 35,000 का स्टॉप लॉस ऑफर करती है, उसको लेके मैं बेच दूंगा. That's the simple prognosis I have. But chances are we can make a reversal from here. But even if it doesn't make, कई बार होता है ट्विटर पे आप 280 कैरेक्टर में आधी अधूरी बात बोल के चले जाते हो और उसके बाद बेहुदगी होती है, ट्रोलिंग होती है. वो तो छोड़ो, ट्रोलिंग से फर्क नहीं पड़ता, बट किसी को चोट लग जाए, नुकसान लग जाए. सो आई थिंक आई वांटेड टू रिविजिट एंड रिवाइज एंड से बैंक निफ्टी इज वन वेयर आई हैव अ क्लियर fulcrum. Ramesh ji, I hope you'll request for the mic and come up. I haven't heard your conversations on the market for a good time. We've been only chatting on WhatsApp. Mr. Raizada?
I have invited him to speak. I'm just waiting for him to accept the request. In the meantime, Sushil, you mentioned about stocks where you're seeing relative strength. I mean, on a day like this where there's no place to hide, any sectors specifically that you have noticed or observed which are showing that relative
mid-cap IT futures, they have had displayed a relative strength as of now. फिर बाकी का बाद में देखेंगे. अभी तो अगर कल वो भी टूटने लग गए तो कहानी खत्म है. But if they are in the green and the index at any point in the time in the day makes an intraday higher low, I'll try and pile on onto them.
All right.
But it's best, it's best that the last 500 points को ही पकड़ना निफ्टी पे जरूरी नहीं है. थोड़ा सा इस माहौल को क्लियर होने दिया जाए, and then only trying to get onto the long side will be sensible. To try and just for the heck of अपनी जिदबाजी में घुसने में unnecessary के 3 extra stop loss लगेंगे, and when the train will start moving, one will be damaged by then. So poise is the best recommendation. But if somebody has complex books, it's not a zero position. ये भी अंट लिया हुआ है, इलिक्विड्स भी है, एजोटेरिक्स भी है, एक्सोटिक्स भी है, कुछ जगह पे एक्सपोजर क्वांटिटी ज्यादा है कि आप उड़ा ही नहीं पाओगे उसको। तो सबसे पहला काम कि बैंक निफ्टी मक्खन की जैसा लिक्विड है, 9:15 को अगर सवेरे 9:15 बजते तक भी अगर पैनिक है और ये समझ में आ रहा है 35,000 के नीचे जाएगा, एट मार्केट सेल ऑर्डर डाल के अपना हेज कर देने का, बाकी लॉन्ग। दैट्स व्हाट माय गेम प्लान इज, ट्रांसपेरेंटली डिस्क्लोज्ड। एंड जितनी भी बार इंट्राडे में 35,000 के ऊपर जाएगा, बैंक निफ्टी स्क्वायर ऑफ 35,000 के नीचे जाएगा, वापस मारो। Because I do have a number of exposures, so I have to can't manage, एक साथ सारी positions handle ही नहीं होगी।
All right. Sushil, how about we open the forum to any of the listeners?
Yeah,
if
I
they
think
have
that's
any-
what is required.
Yeah. So, guys, if you have any questions that you want to ask Sushil, you can send us your requests and we'll accept it. Others, you want to say something?
Yeah. Thanks, Yash. So my question is for Sushil ji is उनको क्या लग रहा है, what he is thinking about the market at currently. What I am saying कि अगर हम यहाँ से, अगर मैं जितना देख पा रहा हूँ, अगर 34,800 एक मेजर सपोर्ट है हमारे लिए बैंक निफ्टी पे, अगर 34,800 की क्लोजिंग अगर हम देते हैं कि या तो कल दे या फिर अगले वीक में डे क्लोजिंग देते हैं, तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि हम 30,000 की तरफ जा रहे हैं और 30,000 मुझे लगता है कि सेव होना चाहिए। दूसरी चीज मुझे ये लग रहा है कि मार्केट को एक बहाना चाहिए था और एक बहाना चाहिए था कि गिरना है बहुत दिनों से। वैल्यूएशंस जो थे बहुत अग्रेसिव थे, जो चीजें देखने में आ रही थी कि किसी भी स्टॉक को आप ले लो, मतलब XYZ स्टॉक, सारे स्टॉक्स बढ़ रहे थे। हाँ, अगर आप रिसेंट हाई से देखोगे तो 30-40% का करेक्शन सब में था, लेकिन फिर भी एक मतलब ऐसा लग रहा था कि बहुत
I'm
इजी हो
unable
गया।
to hear at all anything from others, Ji. Is he audible to others?
Yeah. I think there must be some issue on your end.
Can I continue or I need to
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So basically 30 to 40% का करेक्शन आ चुका था सारे स्टॉक्स में। अगर आप देखोगे मिड कैप्स में, स्मॉल कैप्स में, इवन आप अगर लार्ज कैप्स में भी देखोगे तो 15 to 20% के मेजर करेक्शंस थे, चाहे वो IT स्टॉक्स हो चाहे वो अदर स्टॉक्स हो। अब प्रॉब्लम है थी भी कि बहुत ऐसे स्टॉक्स थे जिनके वैल्यूएशंस बहुत एग्रेसिव थे, जिनके रिजल्ट उतने अच्छे नहीं थे, ना फंडामेंटल्स अच्छे थे। वहां मुझे लगता है कि अब ये जो फॉल आया है, ये यहाँ से जो बाउंस बैक आएगा ना, वो सिर्फ क्वालिटी स्टॉक्स में आएगा। वो वैसे स्टॉक्स में आ जाएगा जो डिजर्व करते हैं आगे जाने को, जो सेक्टर्स अच्छे हैं, जो अच्छा कर रही हैं, जो कैपेक्स प्लान कर रही हैं, जो जिनकी प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी अच्छी है, जिनके मार्जिन अच्छे हैं। तो मुझे एक, हम पिछले बहुत हफ्तों से इस बारे में बात कर रहे थे, स्टॉक ट्वीट्स पे भी मैंने ट्वीट किया हुआ है और बाकी सारे स्पेसेस। तो मैं सुशील सर से यही जानना चाह रहा था कि व्हाट विल ही थिंक अबाउट मार्केट, कि उनको क्या लग रहा है कि अभी क्या कितना फॉल है, मतलब क्या लग रहा है कि यहाँ से क्या लग रहा है, बाउंस बैक रहेगा भी तो कौन से ऐसे सेक्टर्स होंगे जो अच्छा बाउंस बैक दे सकते हैं। मैंने तो अपना, मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है कि 34,800 जो है बैंक निफ्टी के लिए एक मेजर सपोर्ट है। अगर 34,800 को हम रीच करते हैं तो आई एम सेइंग 30,000 इज नोवेयर। बहुत मुश्किल से 3 या 4 ट्रेडिंग में हम 30,000 पे होंगे।
Adarsh, essentially, you've just repeated what Sushil sir has said. Actually, he has the similar view. Okay, he sees 35,000 on Bank Nifty, and if it breaches that level, he said it outright that he's going to sell. And sectors, he's obviously seeing relative strength in mid cap IT is what he has also suggested. So on Bank Nifty 35,000, and on Nifty it is 15,500, which is probably the line in the sand for him.
Okay. So I'm not there for a while. So basically sectors, मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है कि मिड कैप आईटी बिल्कुल सही है। रियलिटी सेक्टर्स पे भी हमें फोकस करना चाहिए। जो डेटाज आ रहे हैं, मेटल सेक्टर भी मुझे लगता है कि जो एक फिफ्थ वेव है, वो जो बाकी है, जो पेंडिंग है, वहां मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है कि वो फिफ्थ वेव अब इस फॉल के बाद फिर से वो फिफ्थ वेव स्टार्ट होने वाला है मेटल्स में। तो आप एल्युमिनियम प्राइसेस देखो ऑल टाइम हाई है, आप निकल प्राइसेस देखो ऑल टाइम हाई है। तो मुझे लगता है कि मेटल फिर से शाइन होने वाला है। बाकी सुशील सर का मैं व्यू जानना चाहूंगा सेक्टर्स के ऊपर थोड़ा सा।
See, first let the bottom form and
I think sir is not audible to me.
Yeah, I think there's some issue. I think he's dropped off. But that's a pertinent point, Adarsh, as far as metals is concerned. You briefly mentioned about real estate stocks, and there's actually been a more steeper correction in real estate stocks, because if you see it compared to other sectors, real estate Nifty real estate sector is at almost its lowest since September. So I think the pain there has been the most. But let's try and get in Sushil's thoughts as well on the real estate space and metals, like you mentioned.
Go ahead.
Adarsh, you were talking about the sector preferences.
Yes, yes, yes.
देखो भैया, आज की रात जो भी बात होगी वो कल सवेरे 0/सन्नाटा कैंसिल 2 मिनट में हो सकती है. So take it with a bucket of salt, not with a pinch of salt. Let's qualify this answer then. As and when the bottom is found, whether it's found now, that is tomorrow morning itself, or it comes on Monday morning, or perhaps on Tuesday morning, whether at 15,500 on the Nifty or at 15,000 और या 16,100 हो चुका है ऑलरेडी बॉटम. लुक्स लाइक ये हो चुका है शायद. अब मेरे अंदर का एक आशावादी रहता है, अभी भी नीचे 16,100 से 16,087 से खाली भी 100 पॉइंट SGX निफ्टी रिबाउंड हुआ है. Who knows, tomorrow we might open with a larger gap. Gold has also sold off heavily in the last 30 minutes since we are talking. It sold off by $50. So there's volatility, but suppose whenever the bottom is formed, not tomorrow morning itself, I think, steel stocks, not all metals. Steel stocks have been in their 10-month odd long corrective cycle, and the last leg of that cycle is going on. And within steel, maybe I'll start getting aggressive against fundamental consensus right now on Tata Steel and SAIL, only if an evidence comes of a firm reversal signal. I do not agree that because aluminium stocks are at an all-time high, those stocks naturally become a great buy. Our assumption then in that case, in such an analysis, is कि aluminium जो all-time high पे वो उधर ही रहेगा, नीचे नहीं आएगा. Even Hindalco, Nalco went close to their highs. Right, they were at highs. So I'm
In
not
fact,
in
at one
favor.
point,
I'm not in
Hindalco was
favor
the
of
only
buying something
gainer
that
on
is very
Nifty.
close to its highs. I'm in favor of, after such a bloodbath in markets, in favor of buying things that have been in a substantial period correction. A substantial correction of a certain time horizon, a time magnitude. That if that correction pattern seems to be getting completed and it comes out, even if this market may have harakiri कि एक बार यहाँ से 800 पॉइंट निफ्टी बढ़ के वापस 600 घटेगा, तो मेरे स्टॉक्स उसमें ठुकने नहीं चाहिए कुत्ते की तरह. I want to rather get into stocks that have already been smashed and badly neglected. They have been correcting for a long time. So Tata Steel and SAIL qualify in that. Fundamental logic for buying them will emanate a little later. I'm not in favor of the aluminium stocks just because aluminium is at a high. By that logic, अभी crude भी high पे तो crude ले लूँ क्या? और अगर crude ले लूँ तो क्या मैं ONGC ले लूँ? I'll rather wait for a sell signal in crude and sell signal in aluminium and a sell signal in gold, and hence I'm going to avoid Hindalco and Nalco. That's my way of thinking. I can always be wrong. I will never know when I'm going to go wrong next. I do go wrong, and I do go wrong many a times. But call it a bit of luck, call it a bit of emotionless way. ठीक है, आज भी लगा नुकसान, पर काट कुटा के जो नुकसान की तकलीफ वाली चीजें थी उससे हट गए. नेट बुक लीस्ट डैमेज में शाम को ले आए वीजा वी yesterday. So we go wrong and don't take it as a gospel. और बुरी तरह भी रॉन्ग होते हैं. बट मेरा ध्यान यही है कि अगर रिवर्सल मिलेगा तो मे बी टाटा स्टील एंड सेल विल बी स्टार्टिंग अ न्यू फ्रेश साइकिल अप, विद जिंदाल एंड अदर स्टील नेम्स विल लुक इनटू लेटर. एंड माय मोस्ट फेवरेट इज राइट नाउ द मिड कैप आईटीज. फिर देखते हैं कैसा क्या पिक्चर बनता है. पहले तो यहाँ बॉटम होने दीजिए एंड एक एक करके नंबर सबका आ जाएगा. ऑल द HDFC ग्रुप स्टॉक्स, ऑल द इंश्योरेंस स्टॉक्स, they have all had relative strength. So आज एक extraordinary नीचे का और further collapse आ गया. Let's see if let a reversal first work out.
So we've opened the forum, guys. In case you have any questions, you can ask for speaker access, and we'll give it to you, and we'll have Sushil to answer it. And the conversation got a bit serious. Sushil sir, I don't know if you're into music, but we had posted a while back in the evening that share how your portfolio is doing with the help of a Bollywood song. If you just want to share your thoughts, your comments on basically how the day went by describing it with a Bollywood song.
नहीं, वो गाने वाने गा के कोई मतलब नहीं. देखो बॉस, बैंड सबकी बजी है, 100 में से कोई एक या दो आदमी से जो नेट शॉर्ट था कि कंप्लीटली शॉर्ट, नो लॉन्ग पोजीशंस। नेट सबके पास ज्यादा लॉन्ग ही रहता है, शॉर्ट कम रहता है। तो कोई बहुत ज्यादा गाने लायक दिन नहीं है। तो मेरे पास मतलब एज इट इज, यू नो, आई एम नॉट सो पोएटिक, सो राइट अवे कोई ऐसा दिमाग में ख्याल नहीं आ रहा है।
All right, I think we have the first speaker, so sir, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, my question is I was searching for these IT stocks. So why the Wipro stock is falling suddenly? Is there some bad news there compared to other peer group?
Which stock?
Wipro.
नहीं, मैं ज्यादा न्यूज उसको तवज्जो भी नहीं देता हूँ, उतना ट्रैक भी नहीं करता हूँ। तो विप्रो की चार्ट में मतलब आई हैव बीन कीपिंग ऑन सेइंग फोकस इज द स्मॉलर मिड कैप आईटी स्टॉक्स, सो आई एम नॉट लुकिंग फॉर द बिगीज दैट आर ईदर ड्राइविंग द इंडेक्स और गेटिंग ड्रिवन बाय द इंडेक्स। तो मुझे नहीं पता, बट मेरे को अभी विप्रो की चार्ट में कुछ भी करना समझ में नहीं आ रहा है।
Okay, thank you.
All right. I don't think we have many more queries, sir. I think you've gone in detail to explain Nifty and Bank Nifty, and clearly everyone wants to just wait and watch before trying to get too cute and put their money, hard-earned money, to work. So I guess with that we'll wrap today's session. And thank you so much, Sushil sir, for agreeing to do this. Thank you, Adarsh, also for joining and sharing your thoughts on metals and real estate stocks. And yeah, that's about it. Let's hope for a better tomorrow.
See,
It's the
as of
final
now,
phase.
and again, you know, by the time we close, things can be different. Gold has fallen like a bitch. Gold has formed a gravestone doji of the largest proportion I have ever seen. You know, from the gap up opening price of 1914 that it went all the way up to 1976. It's collapsed back to 1923. So a net gain from the opening price is $10. ऊपर से $60 gold गिर गया है. So if gold is selling off, you can end up seeing such similar reversals happening in equities also. तो आज की रात जरा ढंग से सोते हैं टाइम पे. Thanks guys for doing this space in a timely way. अभी तो रात को 2 बजे तक spaces होंगी. तो so you know, so we are done with our work early. Let's sleep. सवेरे उठ के समझते हैं चीजों को. And
Yes.
Even if a bottom formation starts appearing in sight, this world is a far more complex place today, and this theater is far more complicated. तो कल को what more, I doubt इतना येड़ा कोई भी होगा कि न्यूक्लियर बॉम्ब्स चल जाएंगे. वो हो ही गया तो फिर तो ठीक है ना यार, जो जी में आए कर लो. There will be no settlements of accounts between the dead. तब तो go ahead and bet पूरा वर्ल्ड खरीद लो उस दिन. But I hope that day won't happen and sense will prevail. Looks like the way gold has sold off, already the gold traders know perhaps that central banks are the biggest players in gold, and the world's largest investment bank prop desks that are closest to central banks drive the gold price. JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and then the hedge funds, and then the retail crowd. So if risk off is getting sold into, and if this gold opens lower only tomorrow, तो who knows, यहाँ से वापस 1000 पॉइंट निफ्टी को रिबाउंड मारने में टाइम नहीं लगेगा. तो कल का दिन देखेंगे, आज आराम किया जाए. और इतिहास हमारे साथ है कि keep your gunpowder ready, keep enough powder to be able to get into a buying spree, but let that evidence come tomorrow first.
Absolutely. And Ramesh sir has also
अरे
finally
रमेश
figured
जी,
out how to get it.
अनम्यूट करो. आपकी तो बुलंद आवाज सुने अरसा हो गया. Mr. Raizada, please unmute and please share your thoughts with us.
So the mic option is in the bottom left hand side. Yeah.
Am I audible?
Oh yes.
Yes.
So hi Sushil, nice to have to be participating in a very intelligent talks what you have been telling people.
Pankaj Tibrewal also, I would like to invite him to speak. Pankaj, can you please request for the mic and the co-host can add you. And Ramesh, yes, without any interruptions, I'd like to absorb in what you say.
Haji. So I think Sushil, I fully endorse your thought and opinion about the markets. Number one, it's a cardinal principle: a top is never a top unless and until it is made.
रमेश जी, आई थिंक गलती से सबको म्यूट कर दिया था, गलती से बटन दब गया था. प्लीज अनम्यूट योर माइक एंड प्लीज स्टार्ट, रमेश जी.
Okay. So what I was telling you that
बेटा चाय गरम करके दो.
there is a cardinal principle which says a top is never said to be have been made unless and until it is made. Similarly, a bottom is not a bottom till such time it is not made. So I would 100% agree with you that unless and until we see some kind of a bottoming out pattern or a bottoming out picture emanating out of fundamentals, so as to say, meaning you see some kind of reactions, I mean in other physical assets like gold, bullion, then crude. So I mean there are enough, and on the top of the currencies itself. So we would like to have some kind of positive clues coming on from those sides as well, which may indicate a reversal. But till such time a reversal is clearly seen, because this is one event which no astrologer, there is no methodology, there's nothing which who can predict whether the war is a short war, it's a long war. It's very difficult. Having said that, your point is very correct, that whenever the war starts, there is always a knee jerk correction, and that is invariably the biggest shock to the market. And later on, what we see in the markets are all moderations. But today was the first day, although there was already a ground which was getting prepared for a fortnight or so. मार दूंगा, and then ultimately it happened. जब मार दूंगा तो we were not reacting to it because we never thought that it will happen. And once it has happened, now we are saying that it may either get over or it may prolong. It is anybody's call. Now, how to see this kind of markets? I mean, like in good old days, what we used to see, or what we used to say, that panic is always profitable. Now, that is a generic statement and applicable to only those kind of people, those who have got large pockets and those who play a contrarian play in the market. That means you buy when others are selling and you sell when others are buying. So, in my when I used to be a fund manager managing large funds, so we used to follow this kind of a contrarian approach. It's a very simple.
आपने तो जिस जमाने में काम किया था, आप तो पूरे बाजार का उल्टा साइड ले लेते थे.
तो बात वो है कि
सारा बाजार एक तरफ, यूटीआई एक तरफ.
नहीं, वो बात अलग है. The point here is what I'm trying to say. If one has deep pockets and you can sustain this kind of a stock, equities over a longer period of time has always created wealth, provided you are in good management stocks. If you are in good management stocks, the I mean, if you were to ask me what I mean, how do you identify a stock? I would say first criteria is management, second criteria is management, third criteria is management. Who are we? And we are going to buy some few stocks, right? It is the management who's having more larger stake than us, and a good management takes care of all its stakeholders. In all sphere of names, whatever you call them. Now the point here is there is in any given market there are three parameters which have to be looked into. One, what is the fundamental value of a particular market, right? Fundamental value means in terms of the, if you would say Nifty 50 is, or let's take that as a barometer. What is the prospective earning forecast for Nifty for the forthcoming year? I see it, I think maybe around 800 to 820. This is what my numbers are. So if we take this, then if you take 20 times, so you are at 16,000 or 16,400. You are at a fairly reasonable value at this point in time. And a premium to this value can only be given when you know that your growth trajectory in times to come is going to be in double digits or higher teens, right? Maybe 12%, 14% or that type. Then only you can ascribe a premium. So as of now, are we fundamentally priced? Answer is yes. The second factor is that India of late for last 1.5 years or so, I mean, to best of my knowledge, has been outperforming the world markets, right? When you were running, others were not running, they were all lagging behind. Now, भागते भागते आदमी कहीं थकता है. So I think we are reverting back to the mean. That means you are now getting a normalized valuation, and now you will move with the world. That is my second opinion. The third opinion there is that when you see any kind of market, right, whether it is equity or, there is always an overreaction to an event. Have you overreacted to an event? I don't know. This will only time will tell. As they say in good old days, what we used to say, that in any given market, 40% of the market is driven by fundamentals, 40% is driven by the technical position of the market, and 20% is driven by Mr. X. Now, in this case, 20% is what is being played out, right? Technical position, what we have been seeing, there has been an avalanche of selling done by FIs for last 12, 13 months, and they've been selling. Earlier, we were complaining why they were selling. Now, if we were to judge them in hindsight, we'll say, yeah, they were more wiser than us because they were selling and might have been, they might have anticipated the geopolitical situation, what we were unable to do so. Could be a case. I'm not saying that is the case. So, that money which has flown out of India, now, since the valuations will become reasonable as we go down, I cannot put it down value, whether it is 14,000, 15,000, 16,000, unless and until a bottom is made. But on a pure contrarian principle, a large investor always looks for this kind of an opportunity. When others are selling, when there is a fear in the market, they come and silently buy. So if you were to have a contrarian opinion, this could be a time to buy. But you will never know, and you will never be able to touch the bottom, right? It may come and it may go up in a whisker, you never know. So if anybody who's having deep pockets, you have a contrarian play in the market, and you want to create a wealth, then any fall it can be looked to buy. Particularly a panic is always profitable to buy. Technically, if we all believe in the technical analysis says, unless and until the pattern is made, it is a futile exercise to preempt or make a forecast about a pattern. So patterns will come. I mean, technical analyst or a technical analysis is seeing what is being shown to him, right? It is not that we are making the technicals. So what is being shown to us is what we are commenting upon. If we are seeing 16,200, somebody's resultant action has seen that number at 16,200. If there's a profound selling tomorrow again, somebody may go on selling till 15,600. We'll see 15,600. Similarly, somebody comes with a huge pocket and start buying, and they may show us 16,800. Then we say, okay, this is 16,800. So the technical analysis, I mean, if you read the preamble of Murphy, it says the technical analysis is not meant for a fundamentalist who has reacted to his fundamental information, or a trader who's playing to his instincts. So हमको हमारा number सबसे बाद में है. So as Sushil has rightly put it in his introduction, we must see the basing pattern, whether the market has bottomed out or not. You may, rather than preempting a bottom, you see a bottom, no? तो भागने वाला नहीं है. We may see, maybe you may be buying it 200 points higher or 400 points higher or maybe 600 points higher, but you are buying in a certainty if you are a technical, if your triggers are based on technical analysis, right? But if your triggers are based on fundamental analysis, then the value proposition comes into play. I think Sushil was touching about metal stocks. Metal stocks are historically, if you see the valuations of Tisco, you see the result and analyze their earning. I think their earning will not be less than about 280 rupees a share. You see the multiple. Look at Nalco, look at their EV at this point in time. I think the enterprise value is about 20,000. Debt-free company having may report an EBITDA of about 6,500 to 7,000 crores, or maybe 6,800. Give a EV to EBITDA multiple of only 5 times. Since it's a debt-free company, it comes to about 30,000 crores. Now it is 20,000 crores. So immediately you see a 50% jump in Nalco, right? So the metals, theoretically, I mean, in good old days, again, the principle was the commodity stocks should have been bought at high P's and sold at low P's. That was the time when those companies at that, in our time, the commodity stocks, these companies were highly leveraged companies, right? So leverage used to act both ways. But I'm talking of financial leverage. But now in today's context, most of these companies are debt-free companies. So that principle is no more applicable, right? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
So what I'm saying is that commodity on the valuation parametrics is one which should be looked into, right? On the pure valuation perspective, I'm saying, I'm not talking as a on a technical viewpoint. I'm not suggesting that, but on a valuation time, the valuation parametrics, there's a value in them, right? Similarly, you have to look for those businesses which particularly are totally insulated from this kind of a mechanism. Nuance of wars, import, export, the companies, those who are having inward bound businesses, and say they are least affected. Say, I mean, somebody touched about reality stocks, right? Reality stocks is one stock. If you find a real, I mean, on the valuation parametrics as well as on technical, you want to time it that way. I mean, that the reality doesn't get impacted. Only it gets impacted with fund flows and fund inflows. But of late, also in reality sector, I don't want to name companies, but here most of these companies are deleveraged companies. So virtually they're debt free. So they are not dependent upon their, and most of these companies are asset light, in the sense that earlier they used to have huge land banks. So they are not back ended now. First they launch a project, then buy a land. So it's a less riskier business model. So that is one business. The other is asset based businesses like road, ports, and stuff like that. Now these businesses are inelastic. They are not dependent upon crude, they are not dependent upon import, export, or whatever you call them, right? Port, definitely yes, because of the trades. But India, since being we are not large producers of capital goods, I mean efficient capital goods, or large efficient producers of technical products. So there is definitely a, a influx of imports, particularly on electronic side, right? So our ports are reasonably busy, and particularly we are a net importer and or maybe a huge importer of oil, right? You see, the way, I mean, India has oil reserve of 15 days or 21 days, so huge shipments come. So ports is another business which one can be looked upon, provided it has a right valuation in place. So we must look for all these kind of businesses which are not impacted by any outside nuisance, which is now we are seeing in the world, in the global world at this point in time. The third thing, if you are investing in equities, right, a man eternally is a perpetual bull itself. Nobody of us, will ever think that during the call will die or will die the next second. You are generally an optimist. So similarly, the same role happens in equity markets also. Sometimes in this optimism we become exuberant. So the what I'm trying to say is what Sushil said in the morning, in the introduction, that there is no need to rush into. You may wait. Markets are there for 365 days, for 365 years, right? So if you can wait and look how things turn around within a day or two, how the geopolitical situation is happening, there is no mechanism of forecasting these events, right? War is one event which can't be forecasted. Whether this will become a full throttle war, I don't know. I have no answers to that. This is some kind of an event which cannot be forecasted, whether it will escalate, de-escalate. So let's keep that aside. The point here is that अगर वो खत्म हो रहा है तो तब भी दिख जाएगा. if that be the case, then you have something. You should always have some ground with you to buy a stock, whether it is fundamentals or technicals. Similarly, if you want to short the market, you should have some reasons with you that it's a market which is overvalued, overbought market, fund flows are not supporting it. So, there has to be some trigger points which one has to identify. If you are able to identify the trigger points, I think 80% of the time you will be right. Because 20% is Mr. X, which I said nobody has any control on it. I mean, this is what I had to say. I'm telling you. I mean, first time I'm speaking, so I don't know how I have spoken or something like that. You have to.
No, it was great hearing you, Ramesh sir, and obviously the way you explained about the concept of Mr. X and having your reasons in place and having your thesis backing it. Thank you so much, sir. I believe this was the first time, so you couldn't connect earlier. I think there's some issue with Sushil sir's spaces. He's just trying to reconnect, but
I would be happy to answer. I mean, any question if anybody
absolutely,
wants to.
guys. If you have any questions for Ramesh sir or in general about markets and technicals, guys, send us your request. Amit is one, so I'll just add him as a speaker so that he can ask his question. But I think he has dropped as well. Sushil sir, you're on mute.
Yeah, am I audible now?
Yes, you are. Go
Something again very funny, We had a power outage for 2 minutes. And despite my iPhone not being on the Wi-Fi, it stopped working. So, this technology dependence makes our world even more fragile. So in these warfare, whether Corona was a bio warfare or not, आगे भी world में क्या क्या होगा, yesterday the internet was full of, Twitter was full of tweets and, email groups were full of that AWS has gone down and then, PayPal went down and number of online services went down. So people started suspecting, is this a cyber attack? So बड़ा fragile world है. Or outcomes can be anything, but even while we are talking, पता नहीं इंडियन निफ्टी को क्या हुआ है, SGX में वो बिल्कुल ही लो पे ही पड़ी हुई है, जैसे कि किसी को पता है कि too long exists in our system. But Wall Street has already rebounded back 1.5% from the lows of the day, as much as gold came down so much. So we are close to the bottom for sure. Let's watch it. Let's get a confirmed evidence of a reversal candle and its follow through. So, 1-2 दिन late, 300 or 400 points later than the bottom, we start to buy is much better than trying to catch the absolute bottom and get completely destroyed. But those who are, doing unlevered acquisition of stocks, आज थोड़ा सा ये लिया, कल ये लिया, तो common sense है ना यार. Common sense क्या होता है कि because of the special sense gets suspended. But in any other business of the world, कोई की कोठी नीलाम हो रही है, कोई की गाड़ी का EMI नहीं भर पाया और वो सिर्फ 3000 किलोमीटर चली हुई मर्सिडीज अगर लेस देन हाफ द प्राइस पे 40% में मिल रही तो इट्स अ गुड स्टील टू बाय इट. तो लोग डिस्काउंट सेल, फायर सेल में माल खरीदते हैं, चीजें खरीदते हैं. बट स्टॉक मार्केट में जब फायर सेल आती है तो पता नहीं क्या हो जाता है, क्योंकि हम पहले से इतना लोडेड हो जाते हैं कि जब फायर सेल लगती है तो हम खुद ही उस फायर सेल का हिस्सा बन जाते हैं. वो राधा किशन जी दवानी की एक लाइन है जो इस बात को बहुत ब्यूटीफुली एक्सप्लेन कर सकती है. शेयर बाजार वो जगह है जहां पे चवन्नी में भी माल मिलेगा, पर जिस दिन चाराने में माल बिकेगा, चाराना खर्च करने की हिम्मत कोई में नहीं होगी.
बराबर है.
तो the game is of willingness and ability. Despite the ability, the willingness vanishes. The peer pressure is so huge. वर्ल्ड वॉर हो जाएगा. अरे वर्ल्ड वॉर हो जाएगा तो साला लगा दो दांव सब कुछ. जब कोई बचेगा ही नहीं लेन देन करने के लिए तो ऐसे भी कहानी खत्म है. और अगर कोई बच गया तो फिर हमें लेना है यार. प्रॉब्लम ये नहीं है कि ये थ्योरी सबको पता नहीं है. प्रॉब्लम इज people are not in sync with markets. Most of the time people get ebullient to buy closer to the top because the comfort from the news flow. See, the human tendency is to work inside a comfort zone. And I think investing is a profession that demands human excellence more than any other profession, because the best of the brains and the smartest of the people and the mightiest in the universe, everybody is involved. जो जितना पावरफुल उसके पास उतने नोट है, चाहे वो मंजूर करे चाहे नहीं करे। मोदी जी भले खाने नहीं देंगे, हगने वाले तो बड़े बड़े हैं ही दुनिया में। सो देयर इज बिग मनी, देयर इज क्लैंडस्टाइन मनी, ऑल काइंड्स ऑफ मनी एग्जिस्ट। सो द माइटीएस्ट, द स्मार्टेस्ट, द क्लेवरेस्ट, द मोस्ट हार्डवर्किंग, everybody is part of the stock market. So what happens is, this business requires the highest degrees of human excellence, and human excellence is not about having the highest IQ or having the fastest body or the fastest brain or the fastest apparatus. To my mind, human excellence is to have minimal ego, अपने judgments, अपनी values, अपनी बुद्धि ज्यादा थोपने की जो आदत है, that robs men from, or and for that matter even women, from being excellent. Excellence is out of 10 people, the one who would excel at doing the same task will be the one who will be more focused on the work at hand than being focused on his own identity. So to be egoless, or egoless is impossible, to have the least ego and least judgments, then the comfort that मेरी बुद्धि के अनुसार ही मेरे को काम करना है। तो ये चीज जब सबके पास बुद्धि है, तो इसका मतलब सबसे ज्यादा छलने वाली जो चीज है वो बुद्धि है। If everybody is intelligent in the game, because the unintelligent will be killed by the market very quickly. So then just being intelligent is not adequate. I'm not saying one should be dumb. No, we have to be intelligent, and still we have to be wise enough to not become victims of our own intellect. We have to be able to suspend our intellect. The best relationships in life are indeed enjoyed by the intelligent people, but amongst the intelligent, those who have matured enough to not be victims of their own intellect, they can go with the flow. So the flow is when things are really popular, उसी तो आपको कंफर्ट जोन में रह के लेना है, तो कंफर्ट जोन तो आपको यहाँ पे बाई करने देगा नहीं। So human excellence of investing is to be able to have comfort, to do the right thing without having a comfort zone. One has to be comfortable in executing. One can only do that if one goes into the markets with some process. Judgments are a personal constitution we try to impose upon the world. That's why I say in relationships people should be less judgmental. So if we can't have a personal constitution, then we have to have a universal constitution by which we go. And that universal constitution is build a process of either trading or investing. And the investing process would naturally buy when things are very cheap, only if a person does not stay loaded up when things are very expensive. So आज जिन लोगों का वो जो भेड़ चाल में जो फंसे हुए हैं, despite being intelligent, it's because they want to impose their intellect. But the true intellect is that we need to first survive our own intellect. So I think, whether tomorrow morning is the bottom or day after, the worst has...
No, absolutely, sir. Agree with you. And I think whether it is the right time to buy, and why is it that, people have been waiting for the correction to buy, or वो अब ले नहीं रहे हैं, there is this fear that world war हो जाएगा, ये हो जाएगा, वो जाएगा. I think the last 2 years have made investors learn how to buy in a rising market, but उन्होंने अभी तक ये नहीं सीखा है to how to buy when the market is falling. So probably that is another reason why they're more comfortable buying at highs in a rising market and following the trend. And this is the first time they're ever seeing such a fall. I mean, I was just looking at the charts of Nifty. We're down 6.5% for February, which is the worst month since March. So probably that could be another reason, that the psychology and getting used to a one-way market movement is why we are still not seeing that eagerness to go out and buy.
यश, आई थिंक आई जस्ट वांट टू ऐड समथिंग. ये लास्ट मौका है, मतलब ये ट्रेन में लास्ट सीट है, जो अगला बुल साइकिल हमारा है अगले 5 से 6 साल का. तो मैं कहूंगा कि इस ट्रेन की लास्ट सीट है, तो एक लॉटरी लगी है, इसको ले लो आप लोग, बस इतना ही कहूंगा मैं.
Thank you, sir.
So yes, while I cannot recollect any appropriate songs to sing, because some people may be on the wrong side, some people may be totally wrong, some people may be feeling left out. बहुत कम लोग होंगे जो इस तरह के दिन खुश होंगे, ज्यादातर लोग तेजी में खुश होते हैं. So maybe it's a sort of homegrown couplet, not a Bollywood movie song, as sort of my concluding remark. जो बह गया आज सड़कों पे चाहे वो खून ही था, अब तो वो पानी है, बच गया है जो धमनियों में, उसे संभालो, आगे उसी से लिखनी हमें कहानी है.
Well said. Lovely. Thank you so much, Sushil sir, and thank you so much, Ramesh sir, also for giving us your thoughts and sharing all these important points with us, especially at a time like this when the markets are going berserk.
Again, despite having
But
given a conclusion, yes, quickly jumping in. S&P is trading at the high of the day. It's 80 points away, 80 points up from the bottom, which is 2% higher from the bottom. We had a double bottom today formed on S&P at 4106. We saw that level twice with a gap of 8 hours. And the prior top was 4160. We have taken it out. Now we are at 4187. I think US markets are already making the first move. I think the equities are just about bottoming. Maybe we can again come back and cave in a little bit tomorrow in the Asian hours, the way SGX Nifty is misbehaving still. But I think broadly, if not tomorrow, by Monday, I think the popular opinion will be let's get into buying mode. I think the worst is just about happening.
Chalo, let's hope that is what plays out as well. And last trading day of the week, and hopefully we have a good weekend. And over the weekend, again, we don't have any negative news. So that is the most important thing कि कहीं कोई ज़्यादा aggressive होके कोई ज़्यादा बयान ना कर दे और action हो जाए तो दूसरी बात है. But thank you so much, sir, for sharing all those points. And with that, we'll wrap up today's Twitter Spaces session. And thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank you.